Hi book lovers, welcome back to my channel. The Goodreads Choice Awards nominations for the opening round, this first round, are currently out, and if you follow anyone in romance or if you're a romance reader yourself, you probably have some thoughts on them because I sure do. Well, I thought I would make a video about it, just a discussion video basically on everything wrong with the Goodreads Choice Awards nominations for the romance category. I'm not really going to touch on anything else besides this category because I don't read them. I wanted to talk about why these specific 15 books were even chosen, predictions for the next round, what books that I thought should have been on this list or what books I think should not be on this list. If you have any thoughts, please let me know. Would love to discuss with you all. This video is also not like a bashing video on the books and authors that were nominated. It's fantastic that these 14 authors were nominated. It's a fantastic way to get recognized, get your name and book recognized, to help new readers find your books through this list. So props to these authors who were nominated, but of course this nomination list isn't without its problems. So let's just get started. There are 15 books nominated in each category, and to no one's surprise, there are non-romance books in the romance category. This happens every freaking year, and some non-romance books have actually won in the past, which is so annoying. But in this case, for this year, we have 4 books that are non-romances. 2 of them are women's fiction, which are Things You Save in a Fire by Catherine Center and The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. There is one mystery thriller book, which is Verity by Colleen Hoover, and then there is one kinda sorta young adult book. It's new adult, but more on the young adult side rather than like adult romance, and that one is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. So right off the bat, we have 4 out of the 15 books that are not even romances that are put in this category. I'm not surprised that there are women's fiction books in this category because people get women's fiction and romance confused, especially if they're not a romance reader. But just because a book has a love story, some romance, sex, does not make it a romance. Things You Save in a Fire and The Flat Share would be perfect if they were put in the fiction category, but they're not. They even have more ratings than some of the actual nominees in the fiction category, so I don't know why they wouldn't fit right in. Red, White, and Royal Blue would probably be better put in the young adult category. I know it's also in the debut authors category, which is really great. And then Verity, of course, Colleen Hoover has to be on this romance list. That one is literally a mystery and psychological thriller, and there is a mystery and thriller section, a category in the Goodreads Choice Awards, so I don't know why it couldn't have been put in that category. I have a lot of thoughts when it comes to Colleen Hoover and the Goodreads Choice Awards. Like, I love Colleen Hoover, don't get me wrong, she's one of my favorite authors, but her recent books, like her last 3 out of 4 books, have not been romances, yet they always get nominated and sometimes even win the romance category, even though they're not romance books. I remember that first year when It Ends With Us was nominated, and I got so annoyed because it's not a romance. It didn't even have a happily ever after in it, not even a happy for now kind of ending. It was not a romance. It was a great book, but it was not a romance. And in this case, Verity is even more obvious that it's not a romance because it's a thriller. I know Colleen Hoover has posted on her Instagram about the reason why Verity was put in this list, and it's some vague reason that Goodreads said that was based off of people shelving these books in the romance category. So there's some algorithm that is based off of the number of times that a book has been shelved. Whether or not it has been read, it doesn't matter. I don't know why Goodreads would choose to do this. Honestly, it's not even 100% sure that Goodreads does do this. They're not transparent about why and how they choose these 15 books at all. Almost a third of these nominations aren't even romances, which is fantastic. Only 3 choices out of the 15 are indie books, and 2 of them are even by the same author. So there are only 2 indie authors in this list. The rest are all traditionally published. There is 1 paranormal romance, which is The Savior by J.R. Ward, which is not surprising. Everyone loves J.R. Ward. And there is absolutely no historical romance on this list at all, which is insane because historical romance is such a big subgenre in romance. Off the top of my head, I can think of like Tessa Dare, Sarah McLean being some of the most popular books released in 2019, and they're not on this list at all. Sadly, only 4 authors on this list are authors of color. All of them are released in trade paperback or hardcover. There are no mass market paperback releases on this list, which will of course exclude most, if not all, historical romances. Mass market paperbacks are cheaper than trade and hardcover, so you would think that more people buy them than these trade paperbacks. This isn't in the romance category, but in the fantasy section, but there is at least 1 book that only released this week, like the first week of November, that is already on the Goodreads Choice Awards nominations. No one has been able to read that book yet. That book is already nominated, so I don't understand. Just glancing at this list, it's pretty obvious that most of these books are ones that have been marketed heavily by traditional publishers, which makes sense even though it sucks. But if you have, you know, a really big backing behind your book, more people are going to hear about your book and more people are going to read and possibly love your book. Ultimately, it comes down to number of times that the book has been shelved. So of course, if more people hear about your book, the better the chance that it'll get onto this list, which is very, very unfortunate for some lesser known authors, some underrated authors that still have a really like loyal and pretty solid fan base. I've actually read 9 of the 15 books, which is not that bad. I read over half of them. So I read Things You Save in a Fire, The Girl He Used to Know, The Friend Zone, The Bride Test, Meet Cute, The Savior, Pretty Reckless, The Unhoneymooners, and The Kiss Thief. And of those 9, only 4 of them were okay reads. I would not have put them on this list. I myself voted for The Bride Test because that is still my favorite book of this year. I love that. I love Helen Huang. Definitely deserves to be on this list. Let me know who you voted for if you want to share. I'm just really annoyed that apparently an algorithm is all behind the nominees getting chosen, mainly because it doesn't seem like there's any consistent way these books are being chosen. Say, take Jen DeLuca's Well Met. That one has a 3.96 average rating with almost 8,000 reviews, but I can think of like at least 3 other books, mostly indie books, that have a higher average rating than a 4-star with over 8,000 reviews. So why does Well Met get chosen over those other books, those indie books? Is it because it's traditionally published and it has a huge publisher backing? I don't know. And again, why are fiction books, women's fiction books, on this list? I actually loved Things You Save in a Fire. I thought it was a fantastic book and one of my favorites of the year, but I would easily move it onto the fiction category than the romance. The whole blurring of the lines between women's fiction and romance is a little annoying to me because it seems like a lot of authors that I love and read are moving towards the women's fiction side, which is not something that I read, so I'm not that happy about it. It's annoying that women's fiction seems more palatable to like the average consumer than, you know, a romance book. People look down on romance, what they think is smut, but if a book is not all about the romance, then it's like, oh, okay, I can try that, which is essentially women's fiction. The phrase women's fiction itself is also pretty dumb, like it's just fiction, no need to add in a woman's part because it's for everyone. But just because it's written by a woman and a majority of the readers are women, it has to be categorized differently. And like I said before, there is literally only 1 non-contemporary read in this one, and of course it's by J.R. Ward, but this is crazy to me because so many staples in romance are non-contemporary. Like, where is Lisa Kleypas? Where is Nalini Singh? Those two are like the top classic romance authors. When you think of romance, you think of those authors, and they don't write contemporary as often as they do other subgenres. So if I could change this list, I would obviously take out the non-romance books. The only one book that I really didn't like in this list was The Unhoneymooners, so I would not have put that in my list. The only books that I did love were The Bride Test and The Kiss Thief, so I would be more than happy if both of them moved on to the second round. And of course, if a book that you loved is not on this list, you can absolutely write it in. I am 100% sure we're gonna get a ton of write-ins because this list made a lot of people very unhappy. In the past years, I actually like the choices in the second round more than the first because it seems like a better representation of what romance readers read and love that year. There are a lot more indie books in the second round, which makes my heart very happy. Some books that I was surprised didn't get chosen, didn't get nominated for this first round were Sapphire Flames by Alona Andrews, The Best Thing by Marina Zapata, Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey, and either of the two Nalini Singh books, Wolf Rain or Archangel's War. She had two fantastic releases this year and none of them are on this list. I'm hoping to see any of these books on the next round. I'm sure at least one of them will show up, probably Mariana Zapata. Some books that I think have a really good chance of being written in are War by Laura Thalassa, The Risk by Elle Kennedy, The Kingmaker by Kennedy Ryan, and The Wallflower Wager by Tessa Dare. All of these have been so hyped throughout 2019. I can't believe none of them are on this list in the first round because so many people have talked about them, read them, and loved them. Let me know what books you think should be on this list, should not be on this list. Any round 2 predictions, let me know. Oh, I forgot to mention, there are 2 freaking books by the same author on this list. Like, I love LJ Shin, don't get me wrong. I've loved both of those books, The Kiss Thief a little bit more, but I really don't think that 2 books from one author should be in any one category. It's fine if they're in different categories, like plus the debut category, but there are so many authors that deserve like a spotlight on them, especially in this Goodreads Choice Awards. So it just seems dumb to me that one author would take up 2 spaces when there could be 2 fantastic authors taking that place. Ultimately, it comes down to a popularity contest. The psychological thriller from Colleen Hoover is the highest reviewed one out of all of these with 65,000 reviews compared to the second highest, which is 40-something thousand, The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. So that freaking thriller will probably go on to the next round, if not win the whole romance category, which will be very disappointing. I'm just not sure why every year Goodreads does this. They include non-romance books in the romance category that would absolutely fit perfectly in other categories and deserve to be put in other categories. I think it's so dumb that they rely on this algorithm that doesn't even make sense. It's the 11th time that they've done these awards, so you would think that they would change something, but no. So I had a lot of thoughts on this year's nominations, most of them not so good. I would love to hear your thoughts on this year's nominations. What book are you hoping will win the romance category? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!